retain cemented, tức là có cân nhắc các cái thiết kế của phục hình trên implant giữa cái loại phục hình bắn vít hay là phục hình gắn xi măng. Please.
Thank you. So, I will tell some stories this afternoon. Hopefully will make your clinical life easier, because easy is good. Just so you can see where I come from, I now live in, oh my pointer, this doesn't work. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, here, but I come from New York City, originally from New York City. And there's a big difference in the U.S. between the North and the South. Both very good, both very different food, and I enjoy them both. But it's my pleasure to be back here since last year. And what I'm going to do for this first presentation this afternoon is use the difference between cemented restorations and screw-retained restorations to reinforce the discussions we have had about the principles of implants, and then to look at what happens when our successful implant placement, successful bone development, successful connective tissue is all set, and we make the restoration and we make something that lasts, because that's what matters. I never had a patient come to my office after treatment and compliment me on the implant. They compliment the tooth. They complain about the tooth, not so much the implant. So we want to look at that. We want to look at what we know, what we can expect, what we can control, and what we cannot control. So let's look at these. These are very, very different. They're handled differently, and it's interesting historically. In the evolution of titanium-based implants, the first restorations on titanium-based implants were full arch. When Dr. Brannemark developed the titanium implant, the protocol was 5 implants in the mandible, a fixed prosthesis, and the patient had to have a denture in the upper arch. Not natural teeth, had to have a denture, because he was concerned about occlusal overload. After the products had been in the mouth for a while, there was 10-year data, very, very successful at 10 years. People decided to try different arrangements. It led to maxillary implants, it led to single teeth. The challenge is the literature and the assessment of the outcomes is very, very difficult. If we look at all the outcomes that are done in the entire world, very little is discussing occlusion, unfortunately, and we'll talk about that. But let's look at this, because the history was originally screw-retained restoration. Then people complained about the large hole in the center of the restoration, and so they developed techniques for cemented restorations. And then we had problems with the cemented restorations, so the evolution now is back towards screw-retained restorations. And if you look at what the problems were originally with screw-retained restorations, it isn't the implant, it was the restorative material. To make a big opening in a porcelain-fused to metal crown is very different than making a small opening in a zirconia or an EMAX lithium silicate crown. So we are much more able to provide very, very aesthetic, very satisfactory screw-retained restorations. However, there are cases where we still will have to use cement. So let's just take a look at what the characteristics of both are and what are the implications.